The story begins with Yoon Si-yoon, a very intelligent boy whose sole focus in life is studies, and therefore he doesn't have any close friends. On the other hand, his classmate Yongbin is also quite bright but has a very active social life full of friends, parties, and fun. However, he can't match Si-yoon's academics. Furthermore, Yongbin was once the school bully and he has a habit of teasing the weak. One day he notices Si-yoon. He thinks Si-yoon is simple and easy to poke fun at. But Si-yoon isn't the kind of boy to give in to anyone. Instead, he looks Yongbin in the eye and tells him to be careful. The statement stings Yongbin and he's about to hit Si-yoon in anger when the baseball team enters the field. They're looking for a boy named Suho because their captain's girlfriend has become interested in him. The captain accuses Suho of flirting, but Suho responds with a vengeance. She's after me herself. The captain gets furious upon hearing this. But Suho's response is action. He single-handedly beats up the entire team as if he were a movie hero. After the fight is over, he picks up Seoeon's dropped things and apologizes. So tough yet so polite. Later it's revealed that Seoeon's father was a brilliant athlete and his mother was very intelligent, but they are divorced. Seoeon now lives with his father and studies hard to make his mother proud. The next day he arrives at school early and finds Suho sleeping there. That day during physical education class, Yongbin throws Seoeon's uniform in the dustbin, forcing Seoeon to run in his class uniform. This is where the real trouble begins. Yongbin and his friends laugh at Seoeon's condition, but Suho reappears and tells everyone, "You guys aren't athletes yourself," because he has both a strong body and attitude. No one can say anything. Seon is now convinced that the boys stole the uniform, so he goes straight to the school and tells them to get out of the way. But one of Yongbin's friends grabs him by the collar and tries to intimidate him. Seon's characteristic trait is that no matter how dire the situation, he never lowers his gaze. Fortunately, a teacher arrives just then and the situation is diffused. Some time later, Seon is busy studying in his room when there's a knock on the door. He opens the door to find Suho, now working as a delivery boy who accidentally ended up at Seon's house. He enters without hesitation and asks for water. The next day, a new student arrives at school, Baem Seok, the son of a prominent politician. On his first day, Yongbin and his friends approach him to impress him, but they find themselves sitting in Seon's seat. Si-yoon arrives and bluntly tells them to vacate the seat. Seon just wanted a chance to assault Seon, but Soo interrupts again, saying, "Shut up, let me sleep." Everyone quietly returns to their seats. In the evening, Yongbin is partying with his friends at a disco. To break Seon's spirit, Yongbin and his friends have decided that mere teasing and bullying isn't enough. They will now attack Seon's greatest strength, his studies. Their new plan was to drug Seon and sabotage his exams, shattering his self-confidence. To this end, Yongbin ordered some drugs from his cousin and also involved Baem Seok in this dirty deed. Baem Seok was pressured and threatening to do the same thing as he had at his previous school if he didn't help. Terrified, Baem Seok applies a fentanyl patch to Seon's body during his exam. Seon begins to feel dizzy. He tries to regain consciousness, trying to shock himself, but by then the time is up. The exam ends and he looks at his answer sheet. He sees only one mistake, just one, but that was enough. He's shaken to the core. Enraged, he goes straight to Yongbin. Then comes the explosive moment. Seon, hitherto considered quiet and studious, beats Yongbin to a pulp. So badly that his friends just stand and watch. Just then Suho arrives and tries to stop him. He says, "Enough, friend." But Seon's eyes are still burning with anger. He says, "I haven't learned anything from this. Now you're ready to fight Suho too." But Suho, the strongest fighter in the class, easily stops Seon. Then a teacher arrives and breaks up the fight. The result is a broken nose, and his mother arrives at the school and demands that Seon be expelled. But Seon says coolly, "Ma'am, your son brought drugs to school. Who should be expelled? You should decide," and presents the evidence. Hearing this, the mother falls silent, realizing the potential for a backlash, so she doesn't complain. The next day, Yongbin's friends plan to take revenge and challenge Seon to a fight after school. But Seon says, "Why wait, let's settle it now." They all go to the bathroom where Seon closes the door, but this time he didn't intend to fight, it was a mind game. He just creates enough fear so that no one dares to stand up to him next time. His ploy works, establishing his image in class as a weak but intelligent hero. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Yongbin calls his cousin. He now wants to hire him to teach Seoyoon a lesson. Meanwhile, Seoyoon and Suho's friendship deepens. First they fight, then they talk, and now they're spending more time together. Rumors spread throughout the school that they're best friends. Meanwhile, Byok also wants to get closer to Seoyoon, but Seoyoon clearly tells him, "Don't pretend to be friends with me." As Seoyoon leaves school, Yongbin is already waiting for Seoyoon with some thugs. They take him to a secluded spot to beat him up. Byok sees this and without wasting any time rushes to tell Suyoon. Suho initially refuses, saying he doesn't want to get into any trouble, but then Byok offers him money. Suho agrees and the two set off to help Seoyoon. Meanwhile, Seoyoon has been attacked, but he's clever enough to devise a strategy to turn the situation in his favor. His plan works and he begins to outsmart everyone one by one. But Yongbin's cousin, who is truly powerful, rises again and prepares for a deadly attack. Yongbin was now completely out of control. His next target was Seoyoon's hands. Yes, he wanted to break his hands so that he could never read or write again. But just then, like a hero, Suho arrives. He angrily tells the goons that enough is enough, but Yongbin's cousin refuses to budge. The matter of honor has now been settled. Then comes the classic showdown, Soo versus Yongbin's cousin. Both are strong fighters, but Suho is on a different level. Meanwhile, the other goons are beating Siyun, but then Byok arrives and helps Sion. Seeing that everyone has turned against him, Yongbin's cousin admits defeat and declares the fight over. He leaves, leaving Yongbin alone. Sion, who is calm and understanding at heart, says enough is enough. Let go of all this and forget it. After the fight, Sion, Suho, and Baeyonk have become friends. Suho says, now that I'm late because of the fight, you two will have to help me with my work. The three work in a small store and sit down to dinner after work. An embarrassed Baeyeon-seok apologizes to Sion and Sion forgives him without a word. Then comes a heart-melting moment. Suho feeds Sion a meal and for the first time in Sion's life the feeling of friendship fully settles in. But the twist in the story remains. The thugs who beat Sion are back. In reality, he himself was a victim of another big mafia. The real boss, known as a psycho, deliberately broke the arm of one of his own men to give him an excuse to demand 1.5 million rupees in compensation. For Si-yeon and his friends, this had become more than just a fight but a war of blackmail. The next morning the three friends meet to relax, but Si-yeon, unable to resist studying, is about to leave. Then Suho suggests, let's make a bet, let's see who's better. Suho accepts the bet and Si-yeon happily heads home. But on the way, he encounters the sister of the gangster who beat Si-yeon earlier. She stops Si-yeon and says, let's go get something to eat. She then says, I only like rough guys. Si-yeon doesn't understand, but it's a good time. The next day, Yongbin arrives at school to collect his belongings. But before leaving, he requests Seoin to accompany him to the parking lot, as he wants to provide a declaration stating that the fentanyl wasn't his. Seoin agrees, but he doesn't know it was all a ruse. The gang's boss, who orchestrated the entire plot, is already sitting in the parking lot. He declares, you guys killed Yongbin, now you have to pay 1.5 million yuan in compensation. He threatens that if he doesn't get the money, things will become dire. Otherwise, you'll have to take out loans, and if you can't, you'll have to work for him for the rest of your life. This was the gang's true method, trapping people in debt and exploiting them. For the next few days, the entire gang stalks Seoin and his friends, which frustrates Seoin. He talks to his new friend, who explains the gang system and tells him that getting involved with the boss is inviting your own ruin. She convinces him to give the money for his own good and stay away from this crazy man. Meanwhile, Baeyamsak, now willing to do anything for his friends, steals his father's watch and sells it to raise 1.5 million won. But is paying the money the only solution? Seoin's plan is in its final stages. When Baeyamsak has collected the money, Seoin and his friends decide they shouldn't give it up, but instead call the police and put an end to the gang's activities because once they pay, they'll be invincible. Seoin reveals that he has located the evidence. It's all in the gang leader's house. They just need to lead the police there, but Suho will initiate this mission. He'll first go to the criminal's house and try to sell him his waiting app idea to win his trust. What then? The plan begins immediately. Suho reveals that he knows everything about his app and has come up with a big offer to turn the entire school into a gambling den. The criminal is so enthralled by the idea that he agrees to include Suho in his gang. The girl, the CEO, is their friend and sends the exact location so he can bring the police. But Baeyamsak finds this all too dangerous. Terrified, he takes the money and goes straight to the gangsters to end the matter. But alas, it's too late. When Suho arrives at the gang's hideout, the leader doubts his words and attacks him from behind without a word. Then he checks Suho's phone and learns that the CEO is about to bring the police. He immediately orders his minions to burn all evidence and prepare to flee. But then Baeyamsak arrives with the money. But now the money is gone. Their lives were in danger. When Sion arrives with the police, they find the entire place empty. The police, thinking it was all a staged drama, leave in anger. But Sion isn't one to give up. He enters the house, but there's no evidence left. Just then he receives a call from his friend. She informs him that everyone is now heading for the real boss and sends him the location. She also warns him, if the police aren't brought in time, we could all die. Sion leaves again, and at that moment Yongbin's cousin is confronting the criminal boss. He says, enough is enough, let's end this. But the boss wastes no time and begins beating him mercilessly. Just then Yonghai interrupts, stop. But the boss is even more furious. He orders his men to kill Yonghai and he doesn't stop there. He tells the youngest boy to kill both cousin and Yonghai as he's a minor and won't face jail time. He then decides to kill cousin as well, but cousin rises and challenges him, a final fight, if I win I'll become the new boss. The fight begins, brutal, raw, and deadly. But just as the criminal appears to be losing, he pulls out a knife and attacks cousin, slicing him. Seeing this, Yonghai loses his patience. He takes the knife himself and threatens the gangster. But boss, a cunning hunter, snatches the knife, and just as he's about to attack, police sirens are heard outside. Seoin enters. In a movie-esque manner, he declares, the police are here, run now. He then frees Suho and Byonk, and as everyone starts to leave, it's revealed that Seoin had tricked them. It wasn't the real police, it was just a fake alarm to scare everyone. But now they're at war again. A fierce fight ensues and cousin tries to escape, saving his injured friends. Just then the real police arrive. A powerful warning shot ignites, bringing the situation to a standstill, but the mad boss wasn't going to give up so easily. He uses a young boy as a shield and escapes. Seoin knew that if they didn't stop the gang leader now, he could return for revenge, so he pursued him. When he caught him, he tried to confront him, but the gang leader was too powerful. Fortunately, Suho arrived just then and tried to convince him to stop and surrender himself to the police. but he wouldn't listen and a fierce battle ensued between the three. Suho was very strong, but the leader's agility and cunning were far superior. He nearly killed Suho, but Seun got up again and together they defeated him. Cousin meanwhile surrendered himself to the police so that the rest of his friends could escape. By nightfall the police have gathered evidence against the entire gang, and all the criminals are arrested one by one. COA and his friends also arrive at the police station and give their statements, but shockingly the police let them go without calling their guardians, on the condition that they not tell anyone about it. This all happened because of Baem Seok's father, who is actually a prominent congressman. He suppressed everything to protect his political image. Then a new twist comes. Baem Seok goes to meet the criminal and his secretary tells him that his father ordered him to take revenge. But when the secretary teaches him how to kill, Baem Seok is unable to do it. He faints and leaves the room. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Sae Yoon and his friend visit Soo. Soo tells him that he is fine now and will be discharged tomorrow. Then the girl reveals that she is dating Sae Yoon, so Soo should stop starring so much, but Suho straight up says it's not like that. When Seun gets home no one is there, so he returns to the hospital to feed Suho and the others. Suho gets a little nervous and says, "You're scaring me, brother, how can someone be so nice?" Seun just smiles. But amidst all this, Byung's condition was getting worse. She was being brutally beaten because the truth was that the congressman wasn't her real father. He had adopted her just for his political image and was now treating her worse than an animal. The next day, BMC's popularity at school suddenly increases because everyone now knows that the criminals who were caught because of him. But when his friends tell him about Yoongi, he begins to feel that she is slowly replacing him. When he checks Suho's Instagram, he becomes jealous. He soon learns that Suho's birthday is coming up and Yang-e is planning a party for him, but Baeyoung says there's no need. As the days pass, he feels that Yang-e is taking away his friends. When they go to karaoke, Baeyoung tries too hard to get everyone's attention, but the result is the opposite. He meets his old classmates who used to bully him. Terrified, he runs away. When he returns to his friends, he lashes out at Yoongi, believing he knowingly gave his address to the gangsters. He's even ready to kill him, but his friends support Yoongi. This enrages him even more, and then the bullies show up again. This time they want to take Baem Seok away, but Seo-yeon stands firm and says, "Get out of here, leave him alone." The next day Baem Seok is furious. He just wants to take his anger out on anyone. But the other boys in the class aren't afraid of him because the real power is Suho. He still threatens to kill everyone. Then Suhai comes to calm him down, but things take a turn and an argument ensues between them. For the next 2 days Baem Seok doesn't come to school, causing his friends to worry. Then Seo-yeon and the others go looking for him. Baem Seok is shocked, but he's also secretly happy that his friends came to see him. When asked why he's acting this way, Baem Seok breaks down. He explains that he was severely bullied at his previous school and couldn't do anything because his father had clearly forbidden him from making a scene. Hearing this, Suho tells him that he will call those bullies and make them apologize. When they all meet at karaoke, they initially refuse to apologize and instead start bullying him again. But then Suho suddenly appears and forces them to apologize to Byok. But Byok didn't just want an apology, he wanted revenge. He wanted to beat them himself. But Seon and his friends said this was going too far. Byok was completely out of control. Suho drags him out of the room. There, a heated argument ensues. Byok angrily declares that they were never friends and then offers him money to beat up the bully. Hearing this, Suho's anger explodes and he attacks him. CEOA has to intervene. After this, Baem Seok goes off alone. After a while, bullies from his old school start chasing him. But this time, luck is on his side. He meets some of his classmates along the way, and this time instead of teasing him, they stand by him. Not only do they support him, but they also teach the bullies a lesson together. After this victory, they include him in their group and take him to a disco to party. Baem Seok buys drinks for everyone, and this makes everyone respect him more. Then they all start following each other on Instagram, and Baem Seok believes that these are his real friends. The next day he comes to class drunk. When Seun asks him what happened, he ignores her and leaves with his new friends. Later, Seun and Suho interrupt him, but Baem says that they never considered him a friend, so he won't either. He then goes to another party where he meets Yongbin, who says they can be friends now that they have a common enemy. Meanwhile, Siwon is leaving school when her brother catches her and takes her to work so they can spend time together. Siwon worries that Baem Seok's new friends are taking advantage of her. Bad Suho says that Baem Seok is actually using them to feel popular. The next day, Baem Seok also changes his seat. Siwon threatens his new friends that it would be unfair if they took advantage of him. But Suho says, "You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped." Then, in the afternoon, the new bullies try to break into the canteen line. Bad Suho orders everyone to get in line and everyone obeys except Baem Seok, who thinks he's the best. Suho has no choice but to slap him. Seeing this, Baem Seok wants revenge. The truth is he was still very weak inside. He knew he could never face Suho. So Baem Seok and his friends devise a plan. They hire Yang Bin's friend, who is soon to become a professional fighter, and he is awarded 1 million won just to teach Suho a lesson. But the problem is, Suho had already defeated this fighter. So to give him an advantage, Baem Seok and his friends cut the brakes on Suho's bike so that he would get injured in an accident and would not be able to fight properly. Suho had a sneaking feeling about who was behind this. but he didn't want to worry Seon, so he pretended he didn't know anything. Some time passed and Suho's birthday arrived. It was the day when Baem Seok and his friends were planning to beat Suho up. Baem Seok called him, however Suho had already blocked him. So Baem Seok called Yoongi and said he wanted to reconnect with everyone and give Soo a gift, but he needed Yoongi's help. Yoongi, who wanted everyone to be friends again, fell for the trick and agreed, but it was all a huge plot. Then a message was sent to Soo just in case it landed on Seon. He deleted the entire message and told Suho to eat his dinner. He would finish some work and be back in a while. When Seon arrives, he analyzes the area and plans a strategy to ensure a safe escape when the time comes. He then approaches the gangsters who were expecting Suho instead of Sae Yoon. Seeing him, Byok momentarily panics and tells him to turn back. But Yongbin is unwilling to let Seon go. Seon Ren begins running and using his own strategy evades many of the gangsters, but in the end they are outnumbered. Still, Seon defeats many of them with his wits and strength. But then comes the fighter, the one everyone hides behind. He was truly powerful. He easily pins Seon to the ground. When Yongbin moves in to attack him, Baem Seok stops him, saying it's none of his business. But his new friend tells him he must choose a side, and Byeonsuk stands silently watching Seon get beaten up in front of everyone. During this brutal assault, Yoongi had called the police. As soon as the police arrived, all the goons fled. When Seon regained consciousness, he was badly injured. Yoongi was about to tell the police the whole truth, but Seon stopped him and told him not to say anything. Then he called Byeonsuk himself and said he wouldn't report him to the police. But this should end here. The next day, Seon's father asked him how he got his injuries. Seon lies, saying he fell down the stairs. His father becomes very upset and says he will transfer him to another school. Meanwhile, Suho becomes worried because Seon, the smartest boy in school, hasn't been to school for 2 days. He goes to Seon's house but no one answers the door. This only increases his anxiety. The next day, Suho tells Byok's friends that they'll have to pay for his bike repairs. Scared, they all agree. Then Suho catches them all and beats them severely to force them to reveal the truth. When he learns everything, he goes straight to Yonghai and asks which hospital Seon is in. Yonghai tells him he's been discharged, but warns him not to do anything stupid, as Seon endured all this only to avoid another fight. Suho then arrives at his friend Seon's house and Seon acts as if nothing happened. However, Suho had gone to say goodbye to his friend, having decided to fight the thugs that night. Meanwhile, Byok speaks with Seon, saying he'll give him what he's always wanted. Byok immediately calls his fighter and declares it's time to finish Suho off. Just then, Yoongi calls Seyun and tells him that Suho has found out and is very upset because he hasn't gone to work or answered his phone. Hearing this, Seyun abandons his studies and goes in search of his friend. Meanwhile, Suho and Baeonk face off. Suho apologizes, saying he didn't want his words to hurt Baeonk. He also asked him to apologize to Seon. But Baeonk's response is the same as the boys who once bullied him: I don't need to apologize. Meaning he had become himself now, the very thing that once hurt him the most. Hearing this, Suho's anger explodes and he punches him hard. Just then, Baeonk's fighter jumps in and says, "Now it's me." The two enter the ring and the fight begins. Both were formidable fighters, but Baeonk's man had almost become a professional while Suho was still injured. Still, Suho exerts all his strength and knocks him down. But just as he's about to perform his finishing move, a thug comes from behind and kicks him hard, severely injuring him. Then Byok himself climbs into the ring and brutally strikes Suho in the head. Then the other thugs climb up and beat Suho mercilessly as if they'll kill him. But just then Byok's secretary arrives and stops them. But by then Suho has stopped breathing. Seeing this, Bum Seok's heart sinks. He starts crying like a little child. He immediately wants to call an ambulance, but his secretary forcibly drags him away. Then they return again, unable to leave any witnesses. He tells the two thugs, "Now you'll take full responsibility for this." That night at Byung's house, his father tells him to prepare to leave the country and not leave the house until then. The next morning, Seon arrives at school early, but everything seems strange. Suho wasn't there. Final exams were also that day. But worrying about him, Si-yoon ruins his entire exam. Then he learns the truth: Suho is in a coma. BM Seok's secretary has promised to cover all medical expenses, but in return his grandmother had to sign some papers to protect them from the law. Seeing his friend in such a state, Seon feels deeply guilty. He sits with him all day. Yang-hee tries to convince him to go home as there are still more exams left, but now studying had become meaningless for Seon. The only thing he cared about was revenge. The next day he goes straight to Yongbin's school and attacks him violently, then threatens him. "Tell me, where is the fighter who killed Soo?" Yongbin was a coward anyway. He spills the beans, even shows the video of Suho being brutally beaten. Just then Yang-hee arrives at Baem Seok's house and says, "You're a coward, you coward." But Baem Seok blames him instead, saying, "If you hadn't come between us, nothing would have happened." Seon heads straight to the gym where the fighter trained. He plans to attack him quietly from behind, but the fighter's reflexes are amazing. He easily dodges the attack and with a smile says, "You're too weak for me, go home, the school bell will ring before you." But Seon has a different intention today. He wants to avenge his friend. He uses the same style his brother taught him. Initially the fighter is overpowered, but Seon's greatest strength is his mind. He always finds a way and eventually he pins the fighter to the ground. Now the fighter was begging for mercy, but Seon shouldn't have reciprocated. He broke his ankle. He ended not just his bone but his professional career. Meanwhile, at school, Byom-seok's father arrived to see if anyone had said anything. But the teachers were already sold out, everyone obeying his orders. Suddenly, in the middle of an exam, Sae-yoon bursts into the classroom, fire extinguisher in hand and fire in his eyes, and he begins. He eliminates all the thugs one by one. Then he goes straight to Byom-seok and says, "This is all because of you." Byom-seok quietly agrees. "Yes, it's all my fault, kill me." But Se-yeon doesn't kill him because he knows there's no greater punishment than guilty conscience. Then as the teachers come to stop him, Se-yeon smashes the glass with his bare fist and roars, "Get out of my way." Se-yeon, completely broken inside, goes straight to Suseok and falls asleep from exhaustion. In his dream, Suseok says, "You've really gone crazy." Se-yeon cries and apologizes. Suho smiles and says, "It's not your fault." Some time later, Byom-seok is deported because his father no longer wants him around. Young-hee too is deeply remorseful. So she also disappears from everyone's lives. Byom-seok's father tries to blame Seo-seok for everything and send him to a reformatory. But Se-yeon has proof, the video that recorded everything. Byom-seok's father is forced to back down and Seo-seok is transferred to a new school, a new city, a new beginning. But the school he was admitted to, Jeondon-po School, felt more like an underground fight club than a school. From the very first day the air was tense, but Sion wasn't one to back down. Just then a student approached him and Sion was ready. "You want to fight, so let's go," he said. The second season begins with Siwon, who is now in therapy because he can't sleep properly after what happened. Everyone at school fears him as rumors have spread that he killed his best friend, leading to his transfer. Now comes Janti, a shy, simple boy who has become the messenger for the school bullies. Every morning he has to bring them breakfast, otherwise he'll be severely beaten. Furthermore, he's forced to steal Siwon's phone and give it to Yoon, as shown at the end of the previous season. Self-proclaimed leader of the bullies, Yoon has never messed with Siwon, which fueled the rumors that Siwon is a psycho. One day Janti tells Siwon the rumor himself, and Yoon tells him it's all a lie but also orders him to steal Siwon's phone. Janti was terrified, but his courage failed him in the face of the goons, and he stole the phone. Siwon understood everything but didn't say anything because he knew Janti's condition. After school, Janti told him he could give him money to buy a new phone. To which Siwon replied, "You're a coward, I can't sleep at night again." So Siwon went to the hospital to visit Suho, where he spent hours talking to his unconscious friend. The next day at school, Sion saw Janti being harassed by the goons again, but he stopped himself because he didn't want any more trouble. As the day progressed, Janti began to feel remorse, so he gave Siwon a loaf of bread and milk. He also confessed that he had stolen the phone. Siwon initially considered ignoring him. But Jae asked him what he could do to change his cowardly image. He told Siwon to teach him how to defend himself. But Siwon clearly states that he can't teach all this. Yes, he does offer one piece of advice. Remember Newton's third law, every action has a reaction. If you want to change something, you must first change yourself. Meanwhile, at night, Yuman, stealing phones, was busy with his work. He wanted to join the Union Alliance, a dangerous school criminal gang spread across every school in the city. One of the gang's leaders was a psychopath who ran his dirty business from cyber cafes. He feared no one. To join the Union Alliance, Yuman had to deliver phones to a specific number. But when he couldn't complete the task, he went to ask for more time. Meanwhile, inspired by Siwon's words, Janti takes a drastic step. He returns all the stolen phones to their rightful owners. As soon as Yuman learns of this, he becomes enraged and goes to beat Janti severely. Janti desperately tries to defend himself, but Yuman wanted to kill him. Cn sees this and is reminded of Suho's beating. He gets up and stands like a wall in front of Juntae. He begs Yuman to stop, but Yuman starts beating him too. Siwon silently endures all the punches. But the moment he gets the chance, he dodges and beats Yoon badly, leaving him completely embarrassed. Just as the situation is about to escalate, Hyuntik enters and directly tells Yuman that if he doesn't stop now, he'll have to face him. Yoon's arrogance vanishes as he doesn't really know how to fight. Then Siwon takes Juntae to treatment and asks him why he did all this. Juntae's answer is simply, "I believed what you said." After a while, the whole school is talking about one thing, Ko-en's fight, and that he's a psychopath. Deeply humiliated by this, Yoon-min devises a plan. He decides to pit his enemies against each other. The next day, the friendship between Siwon and Youngtae has deepened, and Yoon-min uses this as a pretext for his plan. He deliberately pretends to be Siwon's best friend to make Hyudak think they're on the same team. Then during recess, Yoon-min deliberately destroys the basketball club to put the blame squarely on Siwon. Meanwhile, Siwon is upset because he hadn't seen Youngtae all season. Yoon-min reveals that Hyuntik forcibly dragged Youngtae into his club. When Siwon arrives, Youngtae is locked in a locker and Hyudak finds them there as soon as he emerges. When Hyuntik arrives, everything is ruined. He's convinced that the new guy Siwon has come to trouble him. When they meet in the streets after school, Juntae tries to explain everything, but Hanta refuses to listen. Siwon tells him to kill him once and for all and end this drama. But then Hyuntak says that he knows Siwon isn't a psycho, nor has he killed anyone. He just put his best friend in a coma. Hearing this, Siwon goes berserk and attacks first. But before the fight can escalate, Yoon-min arrives and reveals that it was his plan all along, to pit Siwon and Hyudak against each other and finish them off. Now Siwon and Hyudak fight together, but the number of thugs increases and it seems that defeat is inevitable. Then a formidable hero enters, Baku, the strongest boy in school with colorful hair. He had already banned fights and bullying in the school, but due to his suspension the bullies had become active again. As soon as he arrives, he hits Yoonmin with a powerful ball and beats up all the bullies. Then he clearly tells everyone, "I'm back and there will be no more fights." Hyuntaek then apologizes to Ko-en and says he misunderstood, but Ko-en, as always, walks away quietly. The next day, Baku returns to school, very popular, energetic, but equally responsible. Because of him, there had never been any bullying or fighting in the school. But now the principal has learned of another fight in the school and is unwilling to suspend Baku again. As punishment, the four are forced to participate in a stage play. Baku's actions and personality were very similar to Suho's, and Seun found this very uncomfortable. He wanted to keep his distance. However, Baku's energy was overwhelming. That night, Seun's mother was worried that her son had got into another fight. Seun consoled her, telling her not to worry. Meanwhile, at the Union Alliance base, Yoon was in a bad state. He was being severely beaten for not delivering the phone. He begged for more time and promised to deliver double the number next time. As the weekend arrived, the four boys had to perform in a play on stage. Even though the play was given as punishment, they all had a great time. Seun also enjoyed spending time with them. But when he went to the bathroom, a psychopath blocked his path. He took a photo of him and said he was just coming to say hi. Then he suddenly attacked him. But Siwon's reflexes are so strong that he manages to save himself and the maniac lets him go. On his way out, Seo meets Baku, who jokingly mentions that he said hello to his friend in the bathroom. Hearing this, Baku becomes enraged and angrily declares that he'll kill him if he's done anything. But Seon brushes him off and pretends nothing happened so as not to upset Baku. Some time later, we meet Baek Jin, the true leader of the Union Alliance. On the surface, he appeared to be a top-notch, decent, and ideal student, so no one suspected he was running an entire criminal organization. Meanwhile, Yoon-min had arranged a meeting with him to give him all the mobile phones he'd promised. But it was all a trap. He thought Baek Jin was a simple nerd and would easily capture him. But the reality was quite different. Baek Jin was a trained fighter and so fast that no thug could even touch him. At the end of the day, the boys make plans to eat out, but Seun says he already has plans. The others go to Baku's shop, and when they tell him everything, he's overjoyed. Especially knowing that Junti has found so much courage. Junti also explains that all this was possible thanks to Seun's advice, and that he's deeply grateful to him for saving him from the bullies. Baku then calls Seun to ask if he got home safely. Seun lies, but in reality he's gone to the hospital to visit Suho. Just then the same psychopath reappears and says that if he wants to save his friend he should come with him. Seun follows him and is taken straight to Baek Jin. Once they meet, Seun clearly states that he doesn't care who they are or what they do. If they do anything to Suho, he'll end them all. Baek Jin says only one thing: stay away from Baek Jin, only then will everyone be safe. Then the psychopath asks him why he has this strange obsession with Baek Jin and his school. The secret is revealed. Baek Jin and the psycho criminal were best friends in childhood, but his obsessive nature broke the friendship. Now he wants his old friend to come in person. So he devised a complete plan. He sent 3 boys to Baek Jin's father's restaurant, had them serve alcohol using fake IDs, and then filed a complaint alleging that alcohol was served to underage children. The next day, Seun goes to meet his friends and tells them that he spoke to Baek Jin himself. That's why he doesn't want them to drag him into their fights. They can be friends, but Seun wants to be left alone. In response, they call him arrogant and chase him away while Junt follows him. But Seun clearly tells them to leave him alone. He prefers to be alone. After a few days, Seun was completely alone again, but one thing was certain. Baek Jin had kept his word. No member of the Union Alliance was coming close to Seon anymore. But one day after school, Baku strayed a little too far and Union Alliance thugs seized the opportunity. It turned out that the same psychopath had previously beaten Hudek so badly that he was scarred for life. That's why Hudek was terrified. But he still moved forward, confronting the thugs and giving Jade a chance to escape. Jade was quick enough to hide just in time, but then he heard something that terrified him. Baek Jin now ordered the elimination of Seon as well. He immediately calls Siwon to warn him, but just then thugs surround Jade. Meanwhile, Baku sets out to find his old friend. He pleads with them to stop, but the answer is clear: I won't stop until you come and join the Union Alliance yourself. Then he issues a sharp warning: learn to protect your friends. Hearing this, Baku immediately sets out in search of his friends. But as he arrives outside the school, some thugs block his path. They think they'll teach him a lesson. But brother, Baku's answer is straightforward: I gave them a thrashing that left everyone in a bad state. Meanwhile, Hyun-tak is being brutally beat. The psychopath seems to enjoy killing people. Then in comes Sion. The psychopath's eyes light up. Finally, he gets a chance to attack Sion, but Sion is no ordinary boy. He puts up a fierce defense and stabs him straight in the leg. Even though Seo-yeon was weak, he was full of courage. The psychopath seemed to be enjoying the beating. Just when Seo-yeon seemed about to lose, he seized the opportunity and delivered a powerful headbutt, knocking him to the ground in the same blow. Moments later, Baku arrives. But then he remembers what Baku had said: you and I are the same. Hyeon was brutally beaten because of his friendship with me, and his sports career ended there. From that day on, I decided no one else would fight in school. When Seo-yeon regains consciousness, he's told that the police have apprehended the psychopath, and Baku thanks him for saving his friend's life. He then promises it won't happen again. That same night Baku calls Baekjin and says he's ready to pay whatever he wants. The next morning the psychopath leaves the police station and Baekjin comes to pick him up. But he has a doubt. How did the police release him so quickly? He takes him to a secluded spot and asks, "What did you tell the police?" The reply comes, "You didn't say anything about your business and you're doubting me." It hurts, but the trouble doesn't end. The very next day his boss's goons come after Baekjin himself. He says he'll talk to the boss himself, but they refuse and try to take him away by force. Forced to do so, Baekjin beats them down and knocks them out. Within a few days, Siwon, Jat, Hyuntaek and the other boys had developed a deep friendship. Even if Siwon didn't want, he was now a part of their group. They would spend time together and have fun, and life was starting to feel a little more colorful. But a storm was about to strike. The boys had filed a false case against Baekjin's father. Now they were not willing to accept any kind of settlement. When Baek arrives at the police station and sees them mocking his father, his anger erupts. That night the real culprit himself comes to meet Baekjin and says, "I can't get into any trouble now. If something goes wrong you'll suffer." Meanwhile Siyun's life was also in turmoil. His mother wanted to send him abroad. Siyun refused, but his mother started crying. "Every time I see you hurt, I feel like a terrible mother." Hearing this, Siyun's heart broke and he agreed. In a few days he was leaving the country to study abroad. Baku was also devastated. He didn't want to work for Baekjin again, but if he wanted to save his father he had to do the same. That night his first task was to capture the leaders of the other schools, beat them and force them to join the Union Alliance. A few days later all the boys went to meet Siyun. They had learnt that he was leaving the country, so they came to see him one last time and say goodbye. Then they called Baku too. He was invited to play with Siyun, but he refused, telling them not to worry about him. Siyun was about to leave the country the next day. Just then Junti calls. He says, "I know what happened to your friend wasn't your fault." Hearing this, Siyun's eyes fill with tears. He realizes that these people are now his true friends. He immediately tells his mother, "I don't want to go, I want to stay here." The next day when he returns to school, his friends are overjoyed that Siyun will now be with them. But Siyun is deeply troubled because Baku has now joined the Union Alliance and isn't even answering his calls. Meanwhile, Baku himself is also deeply broken. He doesn't like the job at all. But even more distressing is that he was the one who taught Baekjin to fight, and because of that he has now become a criminal. The next day all his friends go to his house looking for him. But his father says that he hasn't come home for several nights and they should stop worrying about him. But Siyun defends him. "Your son is a good person and that's why everyone likes him." At school Siyun is determined to bring his friend back, so he goes to Jumin and asks him for information about Baku. Jumin tells him that Baku would either be at the bowling alley or out on bikes. They used the bowling club as a secret base and bike theft was their real business. They would steal bikes, then copy the keys and then steal the same bikes again. Everything was done in cash, that's why the police can't do anything. Jumin offers them a plan, "Let's take down their leader together." But Siwon refuses for now. Meanwhile, Baku is deeply frustrated. He doesn't like the job at all, but at least he's able to send money to his father. Then Siwon researches everything about the Union Alliance and Baekjin and goes to meet him himself. But he's not there. His goons tell him to relax. He'll be coming. Meanwhile, the boys also set out to find evidence to help their friend. They know the only way to free Baku is to dismantle the Union Alliance, and in this effort they arrive at a warehouse full of stolen bikes. At night Baku is asked to steal a specific bike which Baekjin had threatened him with, but then Hyun-taek calls him. When Baku doesn't answer the call, the other friends head straight to the warehouse searching for documents that could expose Baekjin's true identity. But Baekjin has already figured it out, so he himself comes to Siwon and says, "It's better for you not to interfere in our affairs anymore." He then threatens Siwon saying, "If you want to save your friends, time is short." Siwon tries to run away but Baekjin stops him. "Defeat me first, then go." Just then Baku arrives telling Siwon, "You go, I'll handle everything." Siwon tells him that his friends are in danger. Baku says, "You go first, I'll follow." Then he stands in front of Baekjin and clearly states, "I won't work for you anymore, nor will anyone contact me from now on. From now on there's nothing between us. Whatever relationship we had, whatever memories we had, they all end here." Meanwhile, Hyun-taek and Jan manage to find the list of stolen bikes. But before they can leave, thugs arrive and a fierce fight ensues. Fortunately, Hyun-taek was quite strong. He buys time for a while, but eventually one of the thugs defeats him. Then his timid friend musters up the courage to come to his rescue and together they manage to escape. Meanwhile, Siun is on his way about to reach his friends when he receives a call from the hospital. It's reported that Suho is in critical condition. Siun is unsure whether to save his friends or go to Suho. But then suddenly a truck pulls up in front of him and the decision is made for him. His friends are still being brutally beat, but thankfully Baku arrives in time and brutally beats the thugs. One thug comes to attack him with an iron rod, but Siun shatters his helmet with a single punch. Enraged, he's about to kill one of the thugs when Janti receives a call, informing him that Siun has been admitted to the hospital. Siun is now in the ICU. His mother was devastated and Siwon was in a strange dream reliving moments with his friends. Baem Seok was also there, repeatedly complaining that Siwon was always getting his friends injured. All the friends were distraught, but Siwon's mother sent them home, telling them to stay away from her son. She didn't want Siwon getting in any more fights. The next day, Baek-jin flew into a rage and sent all his men to look for the boys. When Baek-hun returned home, his father tried to give him food. He apologized and returned all the money Park had earned. He said, "You don't need this money anymore, just get over it. Your friends love you very much, you should respect them too." Later, Janti went to the police station and submitted a list torn from the bike register. But the police said it wouldn't help and they couldn't help him. As soon as he leaves the station, thugs are waiting for him. They catch him because they don't like gossipers. He's then brutally beaten, but Junti remains undeterred. He claims he's taken a photo as evidence and will go to the police if Baek-jin doesn't release his friends. But Baek-jin doesn't care. Instead, he tells his men to beat him further. Just then the same psychopath arrives and seeing Junti's bravery saves him. His friends then arrive and Baek-jin thanks him. When the real mafia boss learns of this, he becomes furious. Baek-jin is devastated as his boss has clearly stated that if his negligence causes any harm, he will be killed. Meanwhile, Junti tells his friends everything and they say he's truly insane. The next day, fed up with the Union Alliance, Baek-jin goes to Baek-jin's school and challenges him to a school-to-school fight. If Baek-jin wins, Baku and his school will become part of the Union Alliance. All the boys in the school are prepared for this fight, but most of the boys back down because the Union Alliance is so powerful and vastly outnumbers them. In the dark of night, Baku goes straight to the hospital to meet Siwon, where his mother apologizes and explains that he wasn't actually hit by a truck. The truck stopped in time, but Siwon's body was so exhausted that he collapsed and fell unconscious. In that deep sleep, Siwon struggled with his inner fear and darkness. There, Byum-seok challenges him. He must make a choice and Siwon chooses his friends. This decision pulls him out of his trance. Upon regaining consciousness, his first concern was Suho. But when he arrived at the hospital, he learnt that Suho was now fine with only a slightly unstable pulse. During their conversation, Han-tak remarked that he had forgotten how good it felt to have true friends. A short while later, Sion met his entire group. Everyone was clearly overjoyed knowing their friend was now well. But the story didn't end there. Now it was time for a fierce battle, a matter of their school's honor. The next day, Sion explains to everyone that it would be foolish to confront them directly. First, the Union Alliance's power must be broken, only then is victory possible. Following this plan, he sets out to find the psycho who had become Baek-jin's enemy. Siwon convinces him that if he supports him, he can save himself. Psycho initially calls him crazy but then relents and provides a bank account containing evidence of Baek-jin's crimes. Siwon takes the evidence to Yumin and tells her to spread rumors throughout the school that Baek-jin is fooling everyone and stealing their money. The plan works. Baek-jin's followers slowly abandon him as none of them were truly loyal. Everyone was with him solely for the money. Meanwhile, Han-tak and his friends were training hard, their sole goal being to win this battle. However, Baek-jin was still broken inside, worried about Baek-jin. Meanwhile, we learn that the criminal everyone feared wasn't as bad as he seemed. He was an orphan who sent money to his orphanage every month. However, the orphanage manager began to suspect where the money was coming from. By the day of the battle, Si-Yoon had broken several Union Alliance soldiers. Meanwhile, Janti and Hudak had gathered a large number of volunteers, and Yumin had also brought in heavy backup. Just then, Psycho calls Si-Yoon and claims he's taken the phone containing the evidence. But as expected, he betrays him in the end. Meanwhile, a fight breaks out at school and everyone assumes Si-Yoon and Baku are together. However, Si-Yoon is nowhere to be seen, nor is his phone reachable. Forced to do so, Janti is sent to find him, and the others confront the Union Alliance. When the fight begins, every student gives their all. Even the nurses, who had previously been engrossed in their books, come forward to fight as it was now a matter of their school. But facing them were Baek-jin and Baku, far stronger than any ordinary boy. Despite this, the other boys fight bravely and prove they are no less. At one point, only two remain in the field. Meanwhile, Siwon's eyes open. He was held captive by a beast, but now he's awakened. He confronts his gorilla-like captor. Just then, Jan arrives to help. But the gorilla still refuses to give up. Together they confront him and Siwon defeats him with iron will. Without a moment's hesitation, Siwon races straight into the final battle. Baku repeatedly punches his old friend in the shoulder using all his strength, but now Baek-jin is stronger than ever. Despite an injured arm, he defeats Baku. Believing himself victorious, he declares that Baku's school will also become part of the Union Alliance. But little did he know that Si-Yoon was about to arrive for this final battle. As soon as Si-Yoon arrives, the atmosphere of the arena changes completely. A fierce battle begins between the two. This time Si-Yoon has a strategy. He repeatedly attacks Baek-jin's leg to weaken his strength. It seems Si-Yoon might win, but Baek-jin was no ordinary fighter. He was a ruthless fighter. Eventually, Baek-jin knocks Si-Yoon down, but Si-Yoon smiles and says it was all part of his plan. He was just giving Baku time to recover. Just then, Baku gets up. There's no hesitation in his eyes, only anger and determination. He destroys Baek-jin in one blow without a shred of remorse. With this, the Union Alliance collapses. All the boys were overjoyed that they had won this big battle, but they were so exhausted that they all fell asleep on the bus while returning home. A few days later, everything had changed. There were no more fights at school. Everything was calm and Baek-jin had completely disappeared. He was the same gangster who had got him fired. Now Psycho was searching for him, but the gangster claims he hasn't seen him, instead offering to replace him with the Psycho. The Psycho flatly refuses, saying he won't do such a boring job. Some time later, Ko-en receives a call bringing the good news that Suho has regained consciousness. When the two meet, Suho smiles and says he's glad Ko-en has found such true friends. And then in the final twist, we're shown that Baek Jin is no longer alive. The gangster has fulfilled his promise, and this concludes the story of Weak Hero Season 2. So tell me, friends, how did you like this series? And if you liked it, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Press the bell icon so you don't miss the next video.